To those of the program host and guest and not WSTU. WSTU does not endorse any products mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU.
The Treasure Coast longest-running local talk radio show is on the air. The Treasure Coast Forum, brought to you by Get interested, get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Welcome back to WSTU 1450, the Treasure Coast Forum. I'm your host, Cassidy Fowler, and today I'm joined here with
Kane Stringer.
Hey, how you doing, Kane?
Pretty good, thank you. How are you?
Good. You guys had a good summer, I hope?
Yep. Way
Good.
too short.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But now we're back to school. Kane's about to go off to college tomorrow, so.
Wow, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we're going to be joined by two other South Fork students in a little while.
About 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Yeah, while we're
We'll
in
see.
progress, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
So, since we haven't been here in a while, we have a lot to talk about.
We do.
So we can go ahead and start off with the supposed new nuclear arms race.
Okay.
So we remember back in the Cold War when the arms race was prevalent and everyone was in secret trying to develop new weapons to beat their other opponent for power.
Right.
But now, as we're seeing, there is new nuclear testing, at least in Russia.
Mhm.
They have developed 3 new nuclear weapons.
They had a problem there, too, this past week.
Was it the
They had an
Nuke
explosion.
explosion? Yep.
Yeah, and they had to actually evacuate some people in the surrounding area.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah,
I heard
they-
about the
they had some-
explosion.
They
Yeah.
had some radiation exposure
Mm-hmm.
because the people that lived in the immediate area they didn't want them to glow in the dark, so they
Yeah.
thought maybe they should seek some
Mm-hmm. I heard
some
that
medical treatment.
Yeah, I heard that they actually put out they were even trying to hide it from the public still, even though it's
Yes.
quite obvious.
Right.
They put on local TV stations that they had a blue screen and a star in the center and said, "Everyone, please go inside. There will be intense wind coming. Blah blah blah. Do not hide in outdoor areas such as under trees or under cars. Go indoors."
Mhm.
So yeah, trying to hide.
Mhm.
But still, I feel like they're not even trying to hide it as much as they were during the Cold War. It's not as secretive. It's almost a tactic to kind of intimidate the U.S. in a way.
That's an interesting observation. So what happens is that because we have satellites
Mm-hmm.
that are in the air, hovering over that area,
Yeah.
we know in a moment, in an instant, what's
If
going
there
on.
is testing, yep.
Right.
Mhm.
And if there's radiation, there are spikes in our readings. And so we already knew something was amiss
Mm-hmm.
before the people on the ground knew. And so I'm sure that the fact that the authorities there on the ground, they probably says, okay, well, we're going to have to own up to it because the U.S. State Department and everybody
Yeah,
else
they're
already
gonna
knows
be
about
after.
it.
Yep.
Right.
Mhm.
So, yeah, there's
I'm-
some of that.
Yeah, I'm just fearful of almost a new arms race. Exactly what I was saying
I think
before.
we're there.
Yeah,
we're there.
you think we're in it?
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think what happened was we had this agreement between the United States and Russia,
Mm-hmm.
and about this small tactical
Tactical, yeah.
devices, right? And China never signed on to that because they really were a minor player. We weren't concerned. It was 35 years ago or so, quite a few years ago, right? So now China has a whole bunch of tactical devices,
Mm-hmm.
and in order to compete with China, Russia's actually got nothing to do with this.
Oh, wow.
We actually needed to step outside of that agreement
Mm-hmm.
because the agreement we had with Russia handcuffed us and allowed China to increase their devices.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really a defensive measure on our part just to keep pace with the Chinese. Kind of an interesting,
Yeah.
it's 3D chess. There's no
Yeah.
doubt about it.
Oh, I think that
Yeah.
it's more than 3D chess. I think there's
Yeah.
so many
It's
players.
multifaceted.
Yeah,
yes,
there's so
yeah.
many more players
Yeah.
within this new nuclear arms race
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
weren't even considered back
Right.
in the day since they
Right.
weren't developed or not.
You got Pakistan has devices, India has devices.
Mhm.
So, we have to be cognizant of all that.
Do you know if there's any treaties or such that prevent them from developing their nuclear weapons like how we had placed on us and also Russia?
No.
Hmm.
See, and again, what happens is that the United States, through trade negotiations with these countries, tell them, okay, if you want to do business with us, we need you to behave in a certain manner.
Hmm.
And I think that's our leverage.
Yeah, since we definitely have a big
We're a big,
hand in the economic
we're a big
system.
consumer of
Yep.
global things.
Products. Yep.
And so, and if people want in on our market,
Hmm.
they got to think about how to play nice with others.
Hmm.
I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah. So the 3 weapons that Russia is currently developing
Mhm.
includes a Mach 5 speed airplane. You said, right?
Yeah, it's probably. I don't think an airplane could.
Nothing else
No, it's got to be a
Yeah.
rocket. It's
A,
gotta-
so a rocket? You
it's-
said a rocket. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably a rocket.
Yeah.
Because that's what speed of sound is. What 660 miles an hour, something
Mhm.
like that.
So a
Right.
Mach 5 would be
300.
5 times the
Yeah.
speed of sound for anyone
Yeah.
that doesn't know.
Right. So that's pretty quick.
Pretty quick. Pretty
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah. So it's got to be. It's got to be some sort of device that I don't think people can survive that. You can't
Yeah.
make any turns at that speed.
Hmm.
Just straight.
Yeah. And so there's
and you're
also
pinned to the back of your chair for a while.
Ooh.
You take a long time to slow down.
Yeah.
So there's also an autonomous torpedo that they're testing. They called
Mm-hmm.
it the Poseidon, and it can actually be armed with a nuclear tip, which
Oh,
is
Isn't that
just
fun?
adding to the nuclear
Right.
devices
It's like
out
a
there.
big party favor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Mhm.
Yikes.
And that just totally blows away all the money that we've spent developing our like defense from these nuclear weapons.
Right.
Hmm. So that's exactly what Russia is trying to do. They're trying to develop weapons that beat our defense system.
Correct. And
Mhm.
and so they're taking, since we've stepped out of our treaty again, we needed to do that. So Russia takes that as an opportunity for them to start playing in these other arenas.
Hmm.
And I think that's a big part of that.
Yep. And then there's one final weapon that they're testing. They're testing a weapon that is a missile that is actually powered by nuclear energy. So it has practically an infinite amount of energy.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
it can stay in flight for a long time.
For weeks. Yes.
Or longer.
Or longer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on how big.
That
Mhm.
depends on how much isotope they have
Yep.
in the device and how long it could be used.
Which isotope?
Hmm. Yeah.
Well, we have a miniature space shuttle that's been up there for over 700 days.
Oh, wow.
Didn't know that.
I don't
Yeah.
even know that. Is
Yeah.
there still, I know that,
Yeah.
like a little bit changing
It's-
topics a little bit
Hmm.
with NASA, have
Right.
they done any recent launching of rockets or has that been totally shut down since I think Obama or
Well, since I want to say maybe 2011, 2012,
Mhm.
we haven't used any NASA designed vehicles to put man in space.
Mhm.
So we've been actually hitching a ride. We've been paying the Russians to give us
Oh wow.
access to the space station.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know that
That's pretty painful.
Yeah, I know that
Right.
SpaceX is up in the coming.
Right. So SpaceX was supposed to have. They were in the process of testing the Crew Dragon. The Dragon vehicle is the vehicle that launches aboard the Falcon 9,
Mhm.
and it goes successfully to the space station delivering supplies. And they retrofitted. They took the same capsule
Mhm.
and made it a crew capsule. So it's called the Dragon Crew Capsule. And then there are certain life safety devices, and they have to be able to perform a launch abort
Mhm.
in case there's something goes wrong with the rocket, and the crew capsule needs to separate from the rocket and physically move itself away before it could deploy its parachutes to come back to Earth.
Mhm.
Well, while it was doing a ground static test, it blew up
Oh.
unceremoniously. They call it a rapid disassembly.
That's a nice term for
Yes, yes, and which is probably fairly accurate too.
it. Yeah.
But yeah, so it experienced rapid disassembly during the testing, and so they're doing some work trying to understand exactly what took place to cause that
Mhm.
that failure. And so they have to get that resolved and do another launch abort successfully before they'll man rate that capsule for. They were hoping to go another month or two up there with the Crew Dragon. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Maybe end of this year, more likely January next year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where we're at with that. But yeah, that's pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah. Compared to the Russia entire new arms race stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This is more hopeful stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But back to that, just like a general thing that most people know, that if we get, well, that the nuclear arms race doesn't really have an end, I would say, because the total end would be somebody does shoot their personal nuclear missile towards their opponent, and back and forth fire is sent, and then humanity is destroyed. So
Pretty much. They
Yeah.
say about 80% or more. So, but I don't know where you have to be. Maybe Australia might.
yeah, they might make it out.
Yeah.
Maybe
yeah.
Hawaii? No, not
No,
Hawaii. No.
Hawaii's
Too close
smoked.
to America. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think maybe New Zealand, Australia, probably the South Pole. If you happen to be hanging out in the South Pole,
Mm-hmm.
could be new beachfront property.
South
Yeah.
America.
So
I just don't know how we're gonna solve our problems with diplomacy at this point, since everyone is just so divided.
right. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out. That's for sure.
All right, so we have our two other guests
Right.
with us.
We're gonna have to bring in another chair.
Yeah. So we have with us. Go ahead and introduce yourself, guys. Maddie.
Hi, my name's Maddie.
And
Hello, Maddie.
Oh my god. Hello?
Hey.
Hi, I'm Gage.
Hi, Gage.
Hello.
Hey.
Are you
Good.
Frank?
Yes.
Hello, Frank.
All right, so we were
All right. So we have
just.
Maddie engaged. So
Yep.
you guys are new students with the Youth in Government,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
So you want to be face onto the microphone.
A fist
Right
length
here.
and,
away.
and you really don't want to touch the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't tap
Apologies.
on the
Yeah,
the desk. Yeah.
All right.
Coming in blind.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
okay.
Flying blind. Yes.
All
Okay.
good. So we were just
All right.
talking about the new nuclear arms race that's going on, possibly involving Russia and us and other powers such as
Mhm.
China. So basically, Russia has been testing 3 new nuclear. Well, not testing. I'm not 100% sure on testing, but developing 3 new missiles. One of them has actually been testing. So
And they-
I know that we've learned in school recently the Cold War and the arms race involving the Cold War. So what's your opinion of going towards, I guess, a 3rd World War?
Not good.
Not good. Why is it
I
not
give that
good?
a 0 out of 10.
Why is that?
Personally, closer?
Yeah, you got to be right face
Right
onto.
here.
There you go.
Okay. Oh, I see. I can see that.
Yeah.
I don't like. Should I talk like a normal?
No,
tone?
yes.
Yeah, just
Yes.
talk. Yeah.
Okay. I don't like bombs. And
Death of humanity. Yeah.
personally, I think that any arms race is kind of silly, but I understand the material interest forcing an arms race sometimes. I'll pass it over to you, Maddie. You can continue.
Okay, well, I mean, seeing with the technology that we have now compared to then, and even with what we've sustained, I think that that's a horrible idea and really a horrible outcome for everyone.
Do you think that diplomacy can solve the problem, or do you think that this arms race will ever end?
That's a good question, but I feel like the arms race is kind of something that's like inevitable just
Yeah.
with human nature and
Because for the
competitiveness.
for the fight of power.
Mhm.
So
Can I add something else?
yeah, go ahead, Gooch.
I don't know how likely an actual nuclear war is. I feel like it'd be fought with like proxy wars,
Mhm.
like most things have been fought in the past. And also, like, if none of the countries are aggressing on each other, there's like no actual reason to do it. Never mind. Forget that
it's
last
okay.
point.
All right,
but-
so basically, we don't like weapons or war or bombs, but we do like the environment. So, sliding over to the topic of environment, personally, I watched a video on YouTube debunking climate change, and I found it very interesting because it contradicted many of my beliefs that I have made from media.
And
Mhm.
that's the problem. You only know what you're told.
Yeah, that is definitely the problem. Like, I'm sure that all 3 of us have seen on Instagram the statement that if we don't change by 2030,
Right.
humanity is doomed.
Right.
You've all heard that, right?
Right.
Yeah. So what's exactly, do you think that that's true? Do you believe the media that, like, in what they are telling you?
I don't know if it's exactly the media or if it's like all of science,
Mm-hmm.
and like,
Yeah, they say that 97% of scientists
like the
agree,
entirety of the
but
scientific
Right.
community.
Mhm.
Right.
but we don't actually know who they have polled.
Right.
Scientists.
Scientists, yeah, that's
Well-
general. It's potentially biased.
Right.
I could see that, but also like
So-
I care
so-
about the environment. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong.
I think like it's very suspicious that a lot of the things contradicting climate change come like funded from oil companies because they have like a very clear material interest.
Okay.
And I can't pull up examples because I didn't come ready, but like I do know that when there are studies that kind of go against the grain or whatever, it's not very uncommon to find that like Exxon has paid
Mhm.
for the study to be conducted and something like that. I feel like climate denial at a time like this is like one of the most harmful things you can do, considering that, well, like obviously the Amazon rainforest. I don't know if you've gone over that.
Oh yeah,
yet.
we'll go to that in a second.
Okay. I feel
After
like
the
that's
next break,
best
yeah.
segue. But
Mhm.
All right. Yeah. Maddie's got nothing. huh?
Maddie's got nothing. But
Okay. All right.
in the video that I watched, I know that you
Mhm,
watched it as well. It was
mhm.
very interesting. Totally debunked climate
You
change.
should send it to.
Yeah, I'll definitely, if you guys
To
want to
your
watch it. It
classmates.
was,
It's
trust me, I care
was
about
it
the.
by Steven Crowder?
Was it by Stephen Crowder?
no. It's by a former U.S. senator, so somebody with credentials, and
Very involved within the environmental scene.
right.
Mhm.
And it's not. And the climate deniers, I'm doing that in quotation marks in the air, are not saying that there isn't climate change, because climate's not static. It's always changing.
Yeah.
Sometimes days are good, sometimes days are bad. And so the whole notion, when I was in high school back in the 70s,
Mhm.
or 1970, 1971, when I graduated, right? The global cooling was the concern, not global warming. Is we're using up all Earth's resources
Mhm.
by before the year 2000. We're going to
Mhm.
run out of food. We're going to
Yeah,
run
all
out
of
of water,
these skeptic.
and everything's going to be cold
Hmm.
because of man's intervention in the environment.
And there were even like statements saying that it was going to be too overpopulated. We wouldn't have
Right.
enough food.
Right. And then the global warming thing, then when the scientists that really are looking at, and they're charting it for thousands of years. And the reason why they can check it for thousands of years, that's our friend John. And so hang on, John, we'll get you in a minute. We're going to go to break, but we'll
We'll come back talking about
Yeah.
the environment because this is obviously
yeah,
a great debate.
it is. It
Don't get
is.
me wrong. I care about the environment.
Right.
And
Okay.
my opinion was on your side, but
Yeah. So the interesting thing here is that so first was global cooling,
mhm.
and then they said, okay, it's global warming, and now the problem is that
Sorry,
they're
don't
saying,
squeak the chairs.
Sorry.
they're saying it's just climate change because they're not too sure what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So the reality is when you take ice cores, whoops, we lost.
Oh no, John, John,
Don't leave us, John.
John. We
You'll
will talk
have
to you. Don't worry.
Call back during the break.
That's
Yeah.
my personal friend,
Yeah.
John.
But so when we look at it, when we take the sample cores, and we can actually go into the Antarctic and pull
Mhm.
water out from thousands of years ago.
Mhm.
They can actually carbon date. They can look at what the air
Atmosphere,
quality
yep.
was going on, and all the ingredients that are in the water, and they can pretty much determine what was environmentally going on. It's
Mhm.
amazing with the information you can get from just slices of water.
Mhm.
And so the temperature has been going up and down for eons, and we've had nothing to do with it.
Mhm.
And so I think the big promoter of climate change is that big yellow ball that we see in the afternoon in the sky. I think that's what gives us our climate.
Mhm.
Without that, we've got none.
Can I
Mhm.
butt in?
Yeah, please.
Like, to bring school into this, we learned in physics class that like greenhouse gases do amplify the effects of like I believe it's shortwave radiation. Do you know what that is?
Mhm.
No, I know
Remember.
it. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's weird to deny that like CO2 emissions have gone up dramatically as like animal agriculture has had to become bigger and bigger as populations grow.
Mhm.
Like methane emissions have started to grow. I just think that like if you acknowledge that all of that has increased by way of like man causing it, then saying that climate change is not man-made seems kind of silly.
The problem is that one volcano can produce more pollution than we can do in an entire year.
I mean, but how many
But, yeah,
volcanoes,
volcanoes
are
aren't going
erupting?
off.
All the
Yeah.
time. There's always one volcano working somewhere on the planet.
Are you saying that like in the process of erupting, it emits as much as here?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, what do you mean
So-
by we? Like the entire
the
human
entire
race?
the entire United States. We're probably we're a big part of it, but you got China and
Yeah,
India.
I think that's an important factor that a lot of people are missing. Like,
Mhm.
are you guys familiar with the Green New Deal?
Can I butt in before
Yeah,
we go
yeah,
on to
yeah.
the Green New Deal? Like, if we are emitting carbon at a very high rate and like an unsustainable rate, I don't know how productive it is to talk about volcanoes, which is something we can't change. But like,
Mhm.
you can change corporations' emissions, which I've read is like 70% of all carbon emissions comes from like corporate sources.
Mhm.
So I feel like derailing the conversation into like talking about natural events is kind of silly because you can't really change how a
Well,
volcano
the natural
erupts.
events though are huge because they do more. When Mount St. Helens, for example,
Mhm.
exploded, that they actually had global. They actually changed the temperature of the planet.
Mhm.
Right, it has global implications. That was just one volcano.
Mhm.
I just think that overall we as humans need to find a better source of energy
Sure.
other than like
no one will
yeah.
argue that.
yeah, nobody
But I
mhm.
think
I
think
could name a couple people who would argue that.
Oh,
Probably
no.
like the CEO of ExxonMobil or like
Oh yeah.
all the rich people behind petroleum
Th-
and
look, but
coal.
those people, let me tell you, even the oil industry is looking to invest in alternative energies. You got to realize that.
I
they-
know that it's,
No,
it's
so-
a very profitable thing to transition over to, but for the moment,
Right.
like I feel like people who are mining oil are almost certainly not planning on stopping anytime soon as long as it's profitable. So
Yeah,
like,
I feel as though they're only interested in the time period that they live in, not looking for the future. And I think that's an important fact that the people in the media and environmental activists are looking forward to improve quality of life for future generations. But I think that at least I'm like referring to the Green New Deal here. I think that taking action on that level is not feasible nor effective. The documentary that I watched, if the information is correct, said that the Green New Deal would do little to nothing. Basically, are you guys familiar at all with the Green New Deal?
Yes.
So basically, it's like trying to limit all carbon
Which one?
emissions. The United States by
no, like which Green New Deal? Because
trying to limit carbon
That's the
emissions.
one
No
I
more
think-
flying.
I
No
think-
more.
Yeah, that's what AOC has been promoting.
Yeah,
okay,
no
'cause
more.
I think Bernie Sanders just released one like just
Ooh.
today.
We'll
Mhm.
talk about Bernie Sanders because I know you're about him. All right.
All right.
But we'll get back to you. Whoever called in, go ahead and call back
Yes, please
after
do.
the break.
Righto, and we'll be right back. So stick with us.
and welcome back to WSTU 1450.
Nice job, Maddie.
All right. Okay.
Yay.
And we've got John on the line. He wants to pipe in on this conversation.
After
This
a
is
long wait.
yes,
Way to
we-
go.
we
I'm
thank-
proud.
We thank John for calling in and standing by. And I know this is a topic that's near and dear to your heart, John. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'm an environmental freak. Say, I'm an old guy. I'm older than you, Frank. And I
That's hard to
remember when the
imagine. There's
scientists
very
were
few
saying
things that are
we're gonna
older than
go
me.
into a new ice age. Well, the reason we didn't go into the ice age is because of climate change, right?
Well, no, they didn't call it climate change. They call it global warming. And then they says, okay, well, it only grows instead of.
Well, I don't care what you call it. The reason we didn't go into another ice age is because the planet's warming up. If
it only warmed
Greenland-
up a half a degree, by the way, when you look at it.
This is what the scientists say.
Right, exactly. It was the
I'm
scientists
not
say
making it up.
No, it did go up. It went up a half a degree on average.
If Greenland melts, the ocean's going to rise 20 feet. Do you think Manhattan will go underwater?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Miami Beach.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, sure.
There's a lot of
Mhm.
ice and glaciers up
Mhm,
there.
yeah.
So it's very serious. And I remember when Exxon Mobil Oil was offering $1 million if somebody could come up with a new reason that climate change was just untrue. But
Okay.
they've changed their mind now because
Okay.
they realize they look like idiots.
I see. Okay. Very good. Anything else you want to add?
Well, you want to talk about all those people that were killed with assault weapons?
Actually,
That's
wait,
that's a
I
later
have-
conversation.
I have kind of not exactly a question, but a topic of discussion for you. Do you think that media is, I would say, like corrupt in a way? Like,
No.
do you think
No.
that? Why do you think that? Why do
you don't
say
think
no?
media has any agenda or any? They're just giving
Well, I
us.
think they lean more liberal.
Yeah, but
The
so.
press does.
Mhm. Do
I
they?
believe that, but I don't think they're lying about the news. They're just telling the news. It
But
isn't
do you-
fake news like
yeah.
Trump says. Trump's the fake. He can't open his mouth without lying.
We're not.
I believe.
We're talking about media now. So
Yeah.
don't change the topic.
Okay,
All
well,
right.
Trump's always talking about the media being fake news.
Right.
And the lady there sounds like she's insinuating that the news is
We're
fake.
just asking a question.
No, I'm just referring to, if you were
Okay.
listening to earlier in the show, there were some fake statistics leaked out over, at least in the younger generation's case, on social media, saying that by 2030 that humanity would become in total in danger for extinction, according to 97% of scientists. But that statistic was actually proven wrong, that the scientists, 97% of scientists, weren't actually agreeing
Polled.
to it because it was biased, and also the number was completely fabricated. So that's just my concern. I misuse the term corrupt because I don't think that liberal media is corrupt. I just think that it might be a little bit too political, and we need to look at news for news, not news for politics.
Right, but I think you kids might see the end of the world, because since I've been born, the population of this world is tripled, and we're using up finite resources.
Yeah,
And
I agree with that.
When different countries get in wars all the time, when they get overpopulated, they try to rip off their neighbors of various things, and then we have to stick our nose into it. And I can see where World War III will come about because of overpopulation.
Mhm.
All right. Okay, John.
And you want to?
Well, we
No.
want to move on. We've got so many other topics we want to
well.
hit, but yeah,
I can just stay in the background, can't I? And listen.
you can. All right, stand by. All right, so stay with us. All right,
right,
so go
so-
on. So we got so many different
So
things. We
we're-
only have an hour show.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and move on to a topic that
Okay.
you were gonna bring up, which was just shootings and gun control. And personally, in our case, in response to recent shootings such as the El Paso and the Dayton, Ohio shooting, and also the Philadelphia shooting, our school has actually implemented a new, not fire alarm, but a new protocol for a type of fire alarm. So there's a new type of fire alarm at our school where the fire alarm goes off, we go outside, and then the intercom comes on and says, everyone go back inside because there's an active shooter on campus. So basically, they're asking us to go outside because the shooter potentially pulled the fire alarm to get all the students outside so that they're easier targets, and then they ask them to come back inside to the classrooms for protection. But in my personal opinion, and many other students that I've talked to personal opinions, they see this as a safety concern, because if there would be an active shooter on campus, you'd want to get as far away as possible. So what are your opinions, Maddie?
I think that the whole the idea behind getting as far away as possible, I thought that's what we had been doing in the past, especially with teachers having told us that, for example, if there was an active shooter on campus, we were running straight to the interstate, which was accessible from like closer from certain parts of campus. And I kind of think that the idea of having to go back inside is or go back outside and go back inside is kind of definitely a safety concern, with not only with people in a panic, especially in the case of a real situation, but also in the fact that it's kind of like already known as it is. So I don't know what difference it would make if we're going back inside.
Yeah, if the shooter was potentially a student, they would already know the protocol, so they'd be able to prepare more. Yeah, Gage, what's your opinion of this new protocol?
I think all of these solutions that schools are putting in are very reactive and don't really attack the issue. Like, obviously a school cannot really do all that much to prevent a kid from having pretty not easy access, but like too much access to like a weapon that could, any weapon, even a pistol could do a lot of damage. But I think that like schools having to deal with this rather than like legislators is very sad. And I don't know, if you want to actually attack the issue, you'd have to like have better mental health facilities and more awareness about like people's alienation and feelings of like people online.
So no, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
No,
so what I'm thinking is that what I hear you're saying, if there's a student that maybe you meet at the lunchroom or somewhere on campus, and you feel like maybe he is troubled, has an issue, maybe in the past the kids will say, maybe just kind of give this guy a wide berth. We just kind of stay away from this guy. Maybe he's just a little too strange, but perhaps keeping the mental health notion in the top of your mind, you're thinking, okay, maybe somebody, an authority, should know of our concerns, and then maybe this individual can get some help before it becomes a problem to himself or others.
Yeah, and our school, actually, I'm pretty sure everyone in the Martin County School District, all schools, even elementary schools, are implementing a restorative circle, which is basically a time designated personally for South Fork, 2 times designated a week in 30-minute increments, where we meet up with people of all grade levels in a classroom, about 20 kids, and discuss very broad topics to become closer with one another, so that we develop like social connections. Yep, so that prevents, and at least in the Parkland shooters case, like the lack of social connection, which possibly
that's a great idea.
Yeah. But the problem with that, I don't know about you guys, personally, my little restorative circle is, I would say, a pretty toxic environment. The questions that they give us actually divide everyone in the class, because it makes us want to either not respond or respond with meaningless and pointless questions. So we're not even actually connecting. If anything, we're connecting against the authority, which is the teacher in the room.
Right. So so maybe because the notion seems outstanding.
Yeah.
So perhaps if the students, whoops, we lost John.
Sorry, John.
So if the students actually can run the classroom, that would change things, wouldn't it?
Yeah, they're trying to make it, well, maybe, I don't know. Maddie, do you have a say?
Yeah, actually, I think it's interesting hearing about everyone's different restorative circles and how their groups went, because the group that I had, the teacher involved did not go off of the script given to him at all. He kind of glanced at the script, laughed it off, and said, look, those questions they want us to ask you, they have no meaning. And talking off a script is just as robotic as the robotic answers that the students are giving. So what he was doing was he was kind of more opening the dialogue to have a more like meaningful conversation around the room, and we actually got people to talk and have like good conversations, which was really interesting because I know that with some teachers there is an anxiety with having to follow the script because they don't feel that it is doing anything, and there could possibly be repercussions for not following the script, which is kind of odd because I feel like the idea of an open forum should truly be an open forum, not just having to go off of something given to the teacher. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any opinion on it, Gage?
Just on the restorative circle.
Yeah,
part?
just on the restorative circle. Do you think that it's actually useful? Well, use of
Useful
time.
for what?
In
To increase the school's environment.
The dialogue.
Yeah.
To, right. The social dynamic.
Mhm.
I think the early criticisms of it are kind of don't have much future vision. I
Yeah,
can't think of the
that
actual
is
word,
true.
but like
Yeah.
we've had 4 sessions overall. The questions, have we had 4 sessions? Or
No,
just
we've had
2? We've
2,
had
just
2
2.
sessions, and people
Yep.
are already saying that it's like a bad idea or that it's terrible. I mean, the questions are not very
Yeah.
engaging at this point, but I feel like that might come in the future. Like the most one that has cause for discussion is like, what do your friends think of you? Which is like most kids go, they call me funny or chill, which is like not
A very
really
in-depth response. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they asked, how would you feel if a teacher or administrator came up and talked to you?
Yeah.
So at this point in time, it's kind of hard to make a call on whether or not it'd be productive.
Yeah, I
in
think
the
that they're
future.
trying to get kind of a self-analytical question, like by saying like, "What do your friends think of you? Like, what's your perception of their perception of
I
you?"
mean, I think it's kind of interesting hearing what the actual posed questions are, because the questions that we had in our group was first our teacher asked us what we personally thought of our group and how it made us feel, and then we talked about what like the school environment and what we think the school environment is and how we feel in the school environment and that kind of thing. Like completely like more
Off script,
personal,
yeah.
off
Yeah.
script.
And I think that's
Like-
how it should be.
Right. You want to get in touch with your feelings, and
Yep.
and so you share your feelings with your other classmates. I get
Mhm.
that absolutely. And we have to share this with our listeners. Get to listen to our station break and find out what's going on from our advertisers. So stick with us. We'll be right back.
everybody, and welcome back to WSTU 1450.
Nice job.
All
Gage.
right.
Yeah.
All right, Gage. All right. And why are we listening to the X-Files theme song?
So we're gonna go ahead and
Switch gears.
Yep, switch gears. Bring up the topic yet again of Area 51.
Woo!
So lots of conspiracy around Area 51.
yeah.
In recent news,
Mhm.
I believe Lincoln County law enforcement has declared a state of emergency because of the mass influx of people that are predicted to come in on September 21st.
Right.
Yep.
Yes. So instead of going and the gentleman who started, Matty Roberts, is the one who started the no relation, right?
No.
Okay. He started this Facebook meme a little while ago,
Yep.
and 2 million people have signed up to storm the gates at Area 51.
Yeah. So realistically, 2 million people are probably not going to storm the gates, but there actually is concern for a mass amount of people to be in
Right.
that area because of 2 different festivals that are alien themed that are supposed to take place. I know one of them is called Alien Stalk.
And that was also created by Matty Roberts. So
Wow,
he said,
we got to thank him for so
Yeah.
much.
so he said, look, he says, we can't really storm the gates. He says, that was just kind of a spoof. He says,
Mhm.
but what we can do is get together and have a party.
About aliens.
Right. So anyways, they got that going on. So they're going to do an alien theme festival dubbed Alien Stock that's intended to take the place in lieu of the raid. Roberts has said that he created the original event as an entirely satirical meme page, but with over 2 million Facebook users going and another 1.5 million interested,
hmm
so a potential 3.5 million people
Yeah.
could show up. He decided to refocus their efforts on an initiative rather that is less likely to draw attention from the U.S. Air Force. So, and you're less likely to get shot by
Yeah.
those people if you
So
just
that's nice.
listen to music and just hang out. So
Wonder how
yeah.
many people will still attempt to storm. I'm sure that there will be a couple that attempt.
they're going to have to trek 15 miles on foot through the desert,
Ooh, that is tough.
right? So think about the amount of water you need to carry with you.
Mhm.
You're going to have no cell phone
An
coverage.
attempt to be
No-
undetected, which is nearly impossible, I
Right.
would
So
say.
yes. So and you were talking about a lot of folks that signed up to do this that probably live in their mother's basement and and probably don't get out much.
Maddie, did you sign it?
I did not sign it.
What about you, Gage? Did you sign it?
I don't have Facebook.
Oh,
But
darn. Yeah, our
Yeah.
generation
If
doesn't
I
really.
did,
If
I
you
would
did, you
not
would've-
have signed it.
Oh, you
Yeah,
would not
see.
have. See, I have many friends that have signed it, which is we'll see if they actually end
They're
up
gonna-
going.
Did
We'll
they
see.
book a flight?
No, not
No?
yet, but we'll
Okay.
see. We'll
All
see.
right.
We might
So-
have an inside person at the
Yeah.
festival.
You need a Winnebago, I think. To,
Ooh.
Yeah.
I have one.
You have a Winnebago?
I do.
All right. All right. So Maddie's driving.
All right, let's go.
Okay.
All right, so another topic that we wanted to talk about was Jeffrey Epstein.
What a
Sorry for that.
segue.
Yeah, that was not the best segue.
Yeah,
ever.
well,
apologize for
From
that.
from creatures to creepers.
Yeah,
There
we go. That's what we needed.
All right.
So, since we haven't been on the air recently, we haven't really discussed Jeffrey Epstein and his
Thankfully.
thankfully,
Yeah.
and his recent suicide. So I just want to go around and ask, suicide. I want to go around and ask if everyone believes that it was actually a suicide or a plot by his potential enemies or seemingly allies to cover up information. So, what do you think, Gage? Do you think that it was a suicide or no?
He was murdered 100%, and I have no doubt in my mind about it.
Do you think who
Who would have murdered him?
Yeah.
Probably all the other billionaires who were pedophiles. I don't know.
Okay.
They seem to have a lot of power.
A lot to lose.
Yeah, a lot to lose.
I don't know. Like if you look at
Billions?
all the billions, I guess. But if you look at all the details surrounding his murder, of course it's very suspicious. I'm sure you're familiar with like a week before, some guy I think his cellmate was like caught with a cell phone, and then just out of nowhere, Jeffrey decides to like choke himself, or more likely his like cellmate tried to kill him and failed. And then like a week later, he gets attacked, and then his a bone is broken that is mostly broken in like strangulations and not suicides. Not
The
that it
hyoid
doesn't
bone.
happen. Yeah,
Yes.
the hyoid bone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, all the circumstances. It seems a little too perfect that this guy who has
Gage,
all this info.
I would be inclined to agree with you, and I was pretty much on that same page. Then I read that he
signed his will towards the Virgin Islands
he signed his will.
3 days before his death.
Correct.
Mhm.
And that's, for me,
Very suspicious.
very suspicious. My guess is he planned the suicide,
Hmm.
and I would probably bet money that he would have likely have paid the guards to look the other way.
Hmm. Since was he on suicide watch at the time?
He was come
He
off of
just-
suicide.
just
He had
had
just
come
come
off.
off of it. Mhm. But he was supposed to have a roommate, which he didn't have, and they still don't understand what. And that whole
Ooh.
purpose of having a cellmate is so that one guy could keep an eye on the other and make sure that they're
Okay.
paying
Yeah.
attention.
Mhm.
I've heard that like sheets inside of. We're done. We're good.
Yeah, we're good. No, this
No, you're good.
This
4
is a
minutes.
time clock.
Yeah.
We're good.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep
Oh, okay.
going.
Yeah.
I've heard that like sheets inside of solitary like cells are not very easy to hang yourself with. I
Mhm.
would not know, but
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean the will thing. I would have to know better the circumstances of the will being signed. Like, was he coerced?
He had his lawyers with him.
Is it normal to sign a will before you're in a big case? I'm not sure. Like, if you're about to go to prison for life, is it normal to sign a will? Is this like a trend that people do? I would have to know more information because like signing a will isn't really a deterrent from all the other suspicious stuff that had happened.
Yeah, but it leads me to
definitely-
believe that he's thinking it's
It's a little
because
suspicious.
right, because he was young enough to where he could be spending many years behind bars,
Mm-hmm.
and so he had plenty of time to create a will. But if you're thinking your end is near, and you've already decided your end is near, you want to get your affairs in order.
Mhm.
So that's why I changed my mind.
I could see that.
Yeah.
It could possibly be that if he was actually being attacked multiple times within prison, that he either saw that somebody would murder him or, well, yeah, somebody would murder him. So he would want his will figured out so that it wasn't left in scrambles when he was dead. So
Mm.
that is a potential, I would
Right.
say.
I mean, like
Right.
something like this, I have difficulty justifying to myself making I did just say 100% he was murdered, but like I have difficulty, I guess, reversing my claim because it's definitely possible that more information comes out
Mhm.
because it's still very recent. I mean, in 2 years from now, I might have better information, but
Mhm.
I don't know.
Maddie, do you have any opinion on it?
I guess my strongest opinion is just the fact that he was found dead, whether he was murdered or it was a genuine suicide, just like really angers me
Oh yeah.
because so many people could have been brought forth and so many people could have had their justice. But of course, this had to happen, and like I don't know, just the
A
thought
lot of
of it is
information
really,
died with him, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
exactly.
Mhm.
Well, I think
Yeah.
there is like a sort of optimistic note. I feel like I've read that like a lot of his victims have started coming out
Mhm.
and like talking about the other people that he trafficked them to, which is, it's not a happy topic, but I guess it's better than if Jeffrey just died without releasing any information. Like at least the people that were affected by him, I think hopefully will still have the ability to like discuss like Prince Andrew. I know he's been implicated. Bill Clinton has been friends with Jeffrey Epstein a very weird amount of time,
Mhm.
too
Mhm.
many occasions. So
Mhm.
like, I don't know. I think it's interesting who might be implicated in the future.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I understand there were judges, other people of high credentials.
Yeah,
So-
like the owner of L Brands who like owns Victoria's Secret and like all the other stuff.
Mm.
Just all these insane people are like implicated, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it's a waiting game.
Yep. It's a waiting game to find out information if that's
Right,
even possible
right.
at this point.
So very good. So you folks and other students will be joining us here every week throughout the
Yep.
course of the student year.
Yep.
We look forward to that, and we'll
Mhm.
be covering all kinds of new and exciting
Information.
topics as they come up.
Mhm.
And anything that we probably should tell our listeners that to expect more shows like this. We'll be covering local topics and national, international. So, and if you have anything you want to add, you can always give us a call here at our studio at 220-9788 during airtime. And we're always delighted to share your thoughts with our listeners.
Yep.
All right.
So we'll go ahead and see you next time.
All righty. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. You're listening to WSTU Stewart.